Hello everyone, my name is Mark and I like to make music. If you've watched my channel before, you know I usually arrange music for a cappella groups or handbell choirs, but sometimes I like to react to music videos. In this video, I'll be reacting to You Don't Mess Around with Jim, a low bass cover by Geoff Castellucci. I have never heard this song before, so this whole song will be new to me. I enjoy basically everything that Geoff does, and a quick search about the song tells me that it is a folk rock / blues song, which are genres that I usually enjoy. Geoff also has a very good voice for that type of music, so I'm sure this will be a very good cover. The song is originally by Jim Croce, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, and it's supposedly about a pool hustler and some of his interactions in the pool hall. We'll see how it plays out. Just a reminder, this is a reaction and analysis, so I will be stopping every now and then to comment on things I notice. I will primarily focus on musical and performance techniques or arrangement decisions, but I might also comment on videography choices if something really stands out. And as always, if you are watching a reaction video, make sure you go and watch the original as well so we can support the other artists in their work. I will be linking it below so you can see it without any pauses. Just before I actually start, there's 5 Geoffs. Usually there's only 4, so that'll be interesting.
Town's got its hustlers, the Bowery has got its bums, and 42nd Street's got Big Jimmy Walker. He's a pool shooting son of a gun. Yeah, he's big and dumb as a man can come, but he's stronger than a country horse. And when the bad folks all get together at night, you know they all call him Big Jim Boss, just because.
That's a fun start. All hums to their begin with, or something very close to that. Very fun start with that. Very percussive. He's got a lot of stomps and claps. He's using more full instrumentation, which he likes to do in his covers. But a fun start. We're learning a little bit about Jim, how he's a bad guy, and all the bad guys call him boss. Things like that. Mostly humming with the one lead, and then the instruments. Let's see if there's anything else that I notice. The screen shakes are always fun when you can incorporate that.
Town's got its hustlers, the Bowery has got its bums, and 42nd Street's got Big Jimmy Walker. He's a pool shooting son of a gun. Yeah, he's big and dumb as a man can come, but he's stronger than a country horse. And when the bad folks all get together at night, you know they all call him Big Jim Boss, just because.
Yeah, so like I said, just that very simple, well, relatively simple. There's a lot of things actually going on, but what they are doing musically is not as complex as some other things I've heard. It started with just the one guy humming, and then the others joined in, and we had some very percussive guitar playing. They were like muting the strings and playing it that way, which adds a fun sound when you do that. Yeah. I said everything in the first time I stopped, so nothing new stuck out that time.
Just because. And they say you don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit into the wind, you don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Jim. Well, out of South Alabama come a country.
So just a list of the things you don't do. That includes don't mess with Superman, don't spit in the wind, don't mess with Jim. It's going to be just more explanation of how bad of a guy Jim is. We dropped all the instrumentation, which was fun. It was just the voices and body percussion, which is a fun choice. Looks like we have switched to tenor now. We had the bass Geoff singing for most of that first part, and now we switched to a tenor Geoff. Let's see if there's anything else that I didn't get in that section.
Just because. And they say you don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't.
So we've also switched to having the backup singers are not singing hums anymore. They're actually singing the words. So adding some harmony to the words, which is a good choice. Since up until now we've only had the hums as backgrounds have been hums. Now we're adding words to those backgrounds, in addition to dropping out all those instruments.
Spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Jim. Well, out of South Alabama come.
Yeah, and so the body percussion was just snaps for that time, so we dropped out everything but voices and snaps, and are moving on to that tenor lead. So a good decision to switch. We've switched everything, so it's no longer instruments. It is a full a cappella verse. I don't know if it was verse, maybe it's a chorus. Either way, moving on to the tenor verse now.
Well, out of South Alabama come a country boy. He said, I'm looking for a man named Jim. I am a pool shooting boy, my name is Willie McCoy, but down home they can call me Slim. Said, I'm looking for the king of 42nd Street. He's driving a drop-top Cadillac. You know he took all my money, and it may sound funny, but I come to get my money back. Everybody say, Jack, don't you know you don't tug on Superman's cape.
So, story, we have added a second verse. Now we are some guy who Jim hustled is coming back to get his money back. And looks like we were about to switch back into the chorus to say, you don't do that, you don't mess with Jim. We'll listen to that tenor chorus again to see or tenor verse to see what it sounds like. We're all doing this with our hands, it's funny. And we've switched the instrumentation too. We still have similar instruments, but the bass guitar is a lot more active now than it was in the first part. And some of the other guitars have, I think, backed out, or at least changed what they were playing totally. And I don't remember whether there was the snaps or not, or the snaps and claps. But we backed back so we can watch it again.
Well, out of South Alabama come a country boy. He said, I'm looking for a man named Jim. I am a pool shooting boy, my name is Willie McCoy, but down home they can call me Slim. Said, I'm looking for the king of 42nd Street. He's driving a drop-top Cadillac. You know he took all my money, and it may sound funny, but I come to get my money back. Everybody say, Jack, don't you know?
Yeah, so it's amazing how easily he can switch between his tenor and his bass voice. I'm sure he recorded them at different times, all that kind of stuff. But he has so much control over all of his range. It's great. But yeah, so the stomping that was happening earlier is now only stopping at like the beginning of the measure. So there's one stomp at the beginning of the measure. Previously, it was a much more common stomp. The other instruments have backed off a bit, and we have just, like I said, totally switched to a different type of instrumentation, even though a lot of the actual instruments are the same. What they are playing is different. And there's a nice little leap in there. I was going to repeat it, but I lost what it was in my brain, so I'm not going to try. But it was a fun leap where he jumped up in the melody line to come back down. And it sounds like we also had that background voices backed out a lot during this section. But let's hear how this next chorus sounds, where they're trying to convince Slim to not bother trying to mess with Jim.
You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the whole Lone Ranger, and you
Don't mess around with Jim. Well, a hush fell.
So that little chorus, so they kept the vocal harmonies, but they've also added in some instrumentation that wasn't in there the first time we heard that. Nice progression of the song. Yeah, so they change a few things to make it a nice progression, and we'll move on to see what that next verse is about, as people realize, oh, this guy is serious. He really wants to mess with Jim.
Well, a hush fell over the pool room, and Jimmy come bopping in off the street. And when the cutting was done, the only part that wasn't bloody was the sole of the big man's feet. Yeah, he was cutting about 100 places, and he was shot in a couple more. And you better believe they sung a different kind of story when Big Jim hit the floor. Woo. Now they say...
So, he didn't try to mess with him in pool. He actually, fought him. A lot of violence. Said he was cut up all over, got shot a couple places. So he did mess with Jim, just not in the way that the other people were expecting. So yeah. That was interesting. I kind of knew this story because when I was looking up the stuff about the song, I knew the story kind of. But that was more abrupt than I was expecting it to be. Let's focus on the music this time, because those lyrics were more surprising than I was expecting them to be.
In the wind, you don't pull the mask off the whole Lone Ranger, and you
don't mess around with Jim. Well, a hush fell over the pool room, and Jimmy come bopping in off the street. And when the cutting was done, the only part that wasn't bloody was the sole of the big man's feet. Yeah, he was cutting.
So we also kind of switched to a baritone lead there. The instrumentation did not totally drop out, but it did drop out a lot compared to some of the other things. We were just having the guitar strumming on the first part of the measure, or maybe the first part of the phrase. Definite change from earlier where we either had everything or only instruments. Yeah, so really stripped down instrumentation for this verse. And like I said, I think we switched to the baritone. He did drop down, but we switched more to a baritone voice, and I think this was more of a tenor voice at this section here.
About 100 places, and he was shot in a couple more. And you better believe
that's a fun little chord. More. That exact chord he did has not happened yet. I think he went to a major chord on there. All of the others in a similar place in the phrase have been minor. So that was fun. But yeah, continuing.
They sung a different kind of story when Big Jim hit the floor. Woo. No, they said
hit the floor. Whoa.
You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit in the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Slade. Come on.
you don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't into the wind.
You don't
pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and
you don't mess around with Slade.
That was fun. So now we don't mess around with Slim anymore. First we didn't mess around with Jim, now we don't mess around with Slim. So that's cool. Nice progression of the music as well. We've made some changes. Yeah, every time that chorus has happened, the instrumentation has changed, which is a fun compositional technique. So the words are basically the same, and the melody is going to be the same, but the other things around it have changed every single time that happened, which was fun. I'll go back some, listen to that again, see if there's anything else.
Now they say you don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit in the wind.
So we are building in this course. We dropped out basically to nothing, and then we started the kind of like we were in that second one, where we were just strumming. But now we are building instrumentation, adding more voices, so it's getting more complex in this last double course, because all the others were one time. This one has got two.
Pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Slim. Come on. You don't.
And like I said, you don't mess around with Slim. Because earlier we weren't messing with Jim, now we're not messing with Slim, because Slim beat up Jim and is now taken over in that area. And Geoff always says, "Come on now." He likes to use that in a lot of his covers.
Tug on Superman's cape, you don't into the wind. You don't pull the mask.
That was a fun sound effect they used, breaking glass when they punched for spit in the wind. They changed that a little bit. Fun use of sound effects, though.
Call the whole Lone Ranger and
And that little chord progression there, they extended the cadence, which is what it's called when you are adding some other chords to the end of a phrase, to make what had taken like one measure before take 3 or 4 now, and we've added a whole bunch of fun chords that we haven't had except for that one little one earlier. We've added a whole bunch of borrowed chords, using chords not really in this key in this last little segment to extend that cadence.
don't mess around with Slim.
So it was, he goes really low, which I totally expect that to happen. Let's see how long this low note is. I think it starts at 240.
Ranger and you don't mess around.
So around is pretty long too. That was 2 or 3 seconds, which, I mean, that's not the longest anyone can do. But see, even on one note that long, it's a little long, but this next note is going to be a lot longer, and let's see how long it lasts.
With Slim.
Okay, 5 seconds, not the longest note I've ever heard, but keeping a nice solid tone for a note that low definitely takes skill, and he's way down in the basement. I definitely cannot sing that note. I could probably sing a note an octave, maybe 2 octaves above that, but that specific note I cannot sing. But still fun to have that really long note, and then we're adding all the other stuff around it. Go back a little bit so I can catch more of that without focusing on just the low note.
Don't mess around with Slim.
And that was a fun little tag right at the end. Blah, blah, blah. I can't do exactly what he did. I probably could have practiced it a couple times. But that was a fun little tag right at the end. Let's see if there's anything else, or is it just Patreons?
Hey y'all, Geoff here. Thanks for watching. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to some of the folks that help make these videos pop.
Patreon. So that was good. I like that. Not quite as complex as some of his other arrangements, but still very good. I liked all of the instrumentation changes. That's a fun way to keep progress going in the song, so it doesn't sound the exact same every single time, because the melody for the verse and the melody for the chorus are basically the same. There's only 3 verses, 4 choruses, so relatively short song. You want it to sound like it's progressing throughout the whole thing, so you're going to make some changes every time you repeat a section. So yes, you're changing the lyrics, but the music itself, change that as well. It makes it a lot more interesting. I like some of those chords he decided to use. I like the use of body percussion. And yeah, the five Geoffs was helpful. Allowed him to have those 4-part harmonies in the background, and have that lead always be on the lead. Also a little bit different from some of his other covers. He tends to do, I don't remember, I could be wrong, but I don't remember a section where the backgrounds took the lead, and the lead was doing like a solo obligato type thing over it, where descant type thing, where he's singing related to the lyrics but not actually the lyrics, and the lead has been taken over by those background voices. He usually does that. I didn't notice it this time. That doesn't mean he didn't. I just don't remember it. Maybe one of the choruses he did that. Yeah, it was like the second to last chorus is kind of how he did that, but usually he does that more with the verses too. What else? I mentioned in the opening, his voice is a good voice for this type of music. He can go very folksy, very bluegrass in some of his sound choices in his voice, which is fun. And possibly one of the more interesting instrumental things he's done. Of course, he had all the voices, and there's usually instrumentation in some of the other covers he does, but I think that one had more unique instrumentation through the sections. I mean, it was a typical band. You got the bass guitar, there was no electric guitar, acoustic guitar. Actually, so it's less. It's somewhat less, but the actual what they were doing was different than in a lot of other things. But yeah, I like that. It was fun. It's always cool to see what Geoff does. It's usually very similar. Sometimes it's not quite as similar, but it's usually very similar across the board. And it's always good. I enjoyed that. So, well, thanks for watching. I hope you found that interesting or meaningful in some way. If you did, please leave a like or comment and subscribe. And it does help smaller creators like myself reach a wider audience. If you have any suggestions for future reactions, leave them in the comments below, and I will get to them as soon as possible. I prefer to do blind reactions, but I'm open to any suggestions you have, even if I've already seen the video. Thanks again, and goodbye.